Hello, and welcome to the Behavior Education Connection, the podcast that works to connect the world of behavior analysis and the world of education. We focus on topics important to behavior analysts who work in the public schools and those who support them. Join us and spend time gaining insights and ideas as our host talks with fellow behavior analysts as well as other experts in the field. Welcome to our episode of the Behavior Education Connection. I am Selena Layden and I'm your host for this podcast. I'm really excited today to be with Jessica Olszewicz. Jessica, can you introduce yourself for a second?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Selena. I am Jessica Olszewicz. I am an assistant principal at Conway Elementary in Stafford County Public Schools. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I really appreciate you being here today because today we're actually talking about administrators and behavior analysis in schools. And Jessica is the perfect person to have with me today because she is an administrator and a behavior analyst in a public school. So I want to start a little bit just by asking you, why did you decide you wanted to be an administrator? Like, how did that happen?
It kind of happened to me a little bit. I guess it goes back when I was working as when I started as like a behavior specialist in Prince William County and started traveling around to different schools. It was the first time I left the school that I was at and like my classroom. I learned very quickly that what happens inside a school, the climate, the culture, even what happens in classrooms with our students with disabilities has a lot to do with the person leading that school. There are lots of schools that are in the same county, the same division, but they operate very differently. And I saw that that was based off of essentially like who was there leading it. So I noticed that and quickly, but didn't necessarily think that I would go that direction. So I continued to, do my behavior analyst thing, pop around schools, move down to Stafford County. I thought I would maybe want to move into administration in special education because I've worked my entire career in special education as a teacher and then as a behavior analyst. I was like, oh, maybe I'll be like a coordinator or supervisor, like work out of central office, support teams there. So I knew I wanted to get my admin endorsement that way. And Stafford offered a cohort with the county to get that done. It was at the time it was a master's certificate, which was great because I already had my master's. I didn't need to get like another 30 credits. I did 15. And I was like, oh, I had two kids, young kids. I thought maybe in like 5 years when they're both in elementary school, maybe I'll think about moving up in central office or possibly going to a building. I don't know. And then that summer, as I was like completing my program, the position opened up at Conway Elementary School. And it happens to be my neighborhood school, which is really cool, but it's not the reason I wanted to come here. I had worked with the school, and it was a school that, if you travel to different schools, you might be able to relate to this. Some schools I would have to like pump myself up to go into, or, just get in the right headspace to be like, okay, this is the work I'm here to do, go in with a positive attitude. Sometimes you have to bring that a little bit more than what you're receiving from the school.
Yeah, sure.
Conway was not one of those. And I saw the principal was very like present, even in special education meetings and classrooms. And I was like, oh, well, if I'm going to go do this now, like I would love to learn from him because I don't know how long he's going to be here or whatever. So I was like, oh, this will be great practice, like at least to interview. I put my name in the hat. I got a call about an interview. I went to the interview and they were like, oh, we actually have two other schools open as well. And I was like, well, if I get offered those other schools, I don't want to do it. Like I wanted to come to this school. And then obviously I got offered this school because here I am 2.5 years, 3 years later, still doing the thing, still learning from Mr. Raybold. I had, and there's two assistant principals here. Because we're a very large Title I school. So Nikki Sims was the other principal for the past 2 years, and now she's a principal at another school. And so we have Ashley Hall now, but she's actually leaving to be a principal. So we're actually looking for another principalship, hopefully, or assistant principal. Hopefully, we'll find someone in like the next 2 weeks. Yeah,
Well, so let me ask you from an administrative perspective,
yeah,
what do you like? Do you still practice behavior analysis? Do you still get to use your behavior analytics
yeah,
skills? How do they benefit you?
yeah, 100%. Um, it's a little bit different, obviously, than like working with students in a classroom or even helping lead teachers on teams, as a behavior analyst or behavior specialist traveling around. You work with adults a lot in those plans, but even now it's like another layer back in terms of working with adults in another capacity. So like when I think of discrete trial training, not really doing much of that.
Right,
Maybe
sure.
I'm modeling it some for like some of my special ed classrooms, but just the idea of all adults like behave just like all children behave. And so behavior analysis is still very applicable to systems within a school. I know I had shared with the group before about, just getting behavior systems in place, consistency of communicating with adults in the building. And I've learned very quickly that writing things down, not necessarily like task analyzing, but just writing down the steps of how to do things and what to do within systems building at a school is I use that a lot. And that's very like behavior analytic based. I've had to learn um, a lot of like, I listen to a lot of podcasts. There's a few like behavior analysts out there that also are administrators. I know Polly, I think it's Gavani, I think that's how you say his last name. And the group that he works with, they do a lot of work with like quick wins and like quick room and a lot of like quick little things. I've done a lot. I've kind of dived into his books, his podcast, and there's a few others that I've had to self-teach a little bit, but like what does this look like on a bigger systems level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think, a lot of us go through school to become behavior analysts, we learn how to work with kids a lot of times, right? And the fact of the matter is the science is the science. And so it works with kids, it works with adults. There are, of course, accommodations and things we need to modify to make that work, right? But I think it's really important, and you said this when you first started, that to make kind of those big systems changes, it's really hard to do that child by child. And while that's
Yeah,
absolutely important to that child, we also want to make sure that we can make that bigger systematic and meaningful impact to schools, because that's what we
yeah,
do, is we're school-based behavior analysts.
yeah.
So going back, and if you could talk to yourself 2.5 years ago before you decided to go into this, or someone who might be considering going into administration, what
Yeah.
advice would you give them?
I think some advice I'd give is like stay grounded in the science. And I think that's for like any behavior analyst, but especially in this role because we're a little bit of a unicorn.
A
There are
lot of a
a lot of
unicorn, a
okay,
lot of a unicorn.
I don't want to like toot my own horn or anything. But sometimes looking at um problems or systems that people bring up, I if I'm really rooted in the science, I can look at something that someone's talking to me about, and I try to put it in behavior analytic terms for myself, not for
Sure.
them because they might not understand. But then that helps me understand it a little bit better. I know as a behavior analyst, like once I went through my program and practice, like that's kind of the lens I look at the world, right? And things just even like my everyday life and stuff. So I kind of like take stuff in, look at it with behavior analytic lens, and then how can I like communicate that back in like the problem or the solution to the problem or in the system that I'm trying to help build. So staying rooted in the science, and I think a lot of that comes down to making sure you're reading relevant people who are also administrators listening to podcasts. That's one thing I do miss about driving around the county is I don't necessarily have that like job embedded like drive time to listen, but finding time to do that or whatever you prefer, right? Obviously, if you don't like listening to podcasts, well, maybe you don't listen to this right now. So,
Well,
so
true.
staying,
If you're listening to this, maybe that is the right audience.
yeah, exactly. So, advice like staying rooted in the science, and I think like slow is fast for sure. With behavior change and things in general, humans in general, I feel like, so try not to get ahead of yourself. Like, I know, oh my gosh, I've got all these ideas. I'm going to do this. Okay. So, like, chunk it down, like, come up with like maybe one goal even per year that you want to implement and see change in your school. Right. So, stick with the science, slow is fast, and then consistency. I think consistency of um, like your message a little bit or like the way that you interact with others and problem solve with others. And I like to think that my staff here would say that over the past, like 2+ years that they've really, when they come to me with a problem, they kind of know how I'm going to work through it with them. So consistency of that, I guess. I know there's a few little like phrases or terms that I'll use that I hear other people starting to pick up because I'll like throw those in, like using the word consistency and predictability, like with students. The 4-to-1 ratio, we have signs up in all of our like teacher work areas. Bias behavioral has like a little girl and a little boy with balloons behind their back. And so it's just a good visual of like, are you adding a balloon or are you popping a balloon? And how many balloons did you give that kid today? Kind of thing. So the staff I'm already hearing, or I've heard like will say, "Oh, I popped a balloon," and we have a conversation about that kind of thing. But like I've been talking about that since I started here, right? So just consistency of that and slow is fast. They're starting to talk about it and understand that better. So yeah, I guess those three things: stay rooted in the science, slow is fast, and be consistent.
I think those are really good pieces of advice for anybody, but definitely for
Yeah,
behavior analysts. I think sometimes we get so like, I know what needs to happen, right? And so I'm going to start setting all those things in motion. And, systems change takes time. It's just not something that changes on a dime. And so I think those are all really good. I want to go back. You mentioned the unicorn part, and I
yeah,
want to talk a little bit about that because you definitely are a unicorn, and we have I don't want to say we have lots because there's not, tons and tons, but there's
right.
quite a few behavior analysts who do go into like special ed administration. They
Yeah.
become behavior specialists, autism coordinators, instructional specialists, whatever the title may be. Even special ed directors, we have several of
Mhm.
those. But we don't have a lot of behavior analysts that go into general education administration.
Yeah.
Um, and I think one of the things that I think is really neat about that is our science has so much to offer education in general, right? We don't
Yeah.
just work with kids with autism. We don't just work with kids that have, whatever disability they may have. We can work with all kids and all adults. And so I think a little bit about, um, and I love your examples of how you kind of are infusing the science in such a layman's way, right? And I think that's the really important part is it's not, well, I'm going to teach you about discriminative stimuli and I'm going to teach you about stimulus control and like, yeah, we are going to teach about those things, but in a way that's much more educator friendly.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if you have thoughts about how to make that really work or how to think through some of those pieces or how you think through some of those pieces
Yeah.
so that it's not, I'm the behavior analyst and I'm coming in,
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back to the listen to other people and what they're saying and like how do I internalize that as a behavior analyst and put it into behavior analytic terms for myself. I know if anyone in general education, quite honestly, special education in the state of Virginia has probably heard about the Virginia Literacy Act or the
Mhm.
VLA. So there's a lot of talk about that and and the science of reading. And I'm like, yeah, it's the science of human behavior. Like it's a science of learning, right? Like you could insert any subject matter there. It's just the science of reading has just been very like broken down specific to that skill. But there's a science of math and science of writing and science of classroom management and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I'm not 100% sure if that answered your question, but that's what I think of from the general education realm. Just that it is a science. So I hear what they're saying and I try to put it into behavior analytic layman's terms for them and just kind of say the same thing. I mean, not obviously say the same thing, but hold on to a few different phrases to be consistent with that. I know like my principal here too, he'll be like, oh, like what do we is there a way to teach a kid with, autism or like this kind of disability, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it's called applied behavior analysis. It's science of human learning, that falls under that. And I don't mean to sound like condescending by saying that or anything, but it's like, yeah, I don't have all the answers, but like they're out there within the science, kind of.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you. And I think behavior analysis is the science of learning, right? It's the science of behavior, it's the science of learning. And so we have so much to offer the field of education. One of the other things that I think a lot about with kind of you being in general ed administration and what that could look like, I think we have some unique skills to offer as well. Like I think about how we conceptualize and analyze data and how we can take data and make it useful and applicable. And I think
yeah.
Nationally, I think schools are doing better with looking at like academic data, but I
Mm-hmm.
still am not sure that we are doing the holistic good job of looking at behavioral data. So,
Okay.
why are kids being suspended at the rates they're being suspended at? Really, why, when we look at FBA data across an entire system, are there trends that we're seeing? Are there things that we could do to change systems or to change organizational behavior that would then have those impacts on students? And I think the position you're in is so well poised to be able to have those conversations, but then coupling that with the skills of behavior analysis, I just think is such a great, unique opportunity for you and
Yeah,
for
thanks.
others who are in those
Yeah,
roles.
yeah. I know in our county too, where, with the VLA, there's been a lot of push for like MTSS and different systems of like reporting, like the shell of it, but not necessarily like the system, the function of it, like what it actually looks like, right? So like yes, most schools have a system for like RTI for reading and math, but like not so much like attendance or behavior.
Right.
So I do kind of feel like I'm in a position right now where I'm kind of like helping to build some of that stuff, at least here. And then hopefully I can help the county be like, okay, this is how we do it here. And it seems to work for us here. So how can we put this shell of what we do here into our MTS system then? Because right now every school does things a little bit differently, or maybe a school doesn't even have like an RTI for behavior. But that's like so important. And so looking at the data through that lens as well.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think it's great, and I think you've offered some really great tips and important pieces of information to consider. Before we wrap up, do you have anything that you want to leave us with?
Oh, you did ask me about this, and I was like, oh, I thought of something to say, and then I kind of lost it. I guess just leaving on like stay grounded in the science, right? Find some time where you can read or listen to podcasts or listen to a book on tape or something like that. Be consistent with that, and just like go out and spread the love for ABA.
And save the world, right?
Save the world, yes.
With ABA. I love it.
Yeah.
Jessica, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a really great conversation.
Yeah,
Keep up the amazing work that you're doing. We really love it and
thanks.
love to hear about it. So,
Yeah,
to our listeners, thank you so much for listening and tuning in today. We hope to see you in our next episode.
yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Behavior Education Connection. Join us next time for another great conversation about behavior analysis in the schools. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on an episode. Sending out a special thanks to the Virginia Department of Education for supporting our work. We look forward to connecting with you all again soon.